Well, hello, this is AJ Jackson, and today I'm having a productive conversation with Mike Vardy.
AJ Jackson is joining me on the program today to have a productive conversation. I was absolutely thrilled when I had the opportunity to talk to him, not because of the fact that he is the lead singer of Saint Motel, which is a band that, not only I know, but my daughter knows, and it was kind of cool to be able to do that. It's always good when you can kind of look cool to your teenage daughter. But the fact that he has so many irons in the fire with what we're going to talk about today in terms of him bringing these new glasses to market, all of this stuff. It was just cool to have a conversation around that and around creative process, productivity, all that stuff. It was a productive conversation that you don't want to miss, and I don't want to keep you from missing it any longer. So here it is, my productive conversation, the productive conversation with AJ Jackson. AJ Jackson, thanks for joining me on a productive conversation. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
The magic of editing, you didn't actually hear us do the stinger before we actually went into the conversation. This is how Fina makes the magic work behind the scenes. Fina Charlson, the producer of the podcast. AJ, thanks for taking the time. And I have to say that when Lexi reached out and said, AJ Jackson wants to talk to you about his, what he's made, this AVIEW, these glasses that you're wearing right now. If you're watching this and you're seeing them, right, that's what I'm looking at. I'm a bit jealous because I have to wear my glasses right now, and I can't put those in. But when I found out who you were, because it didn't dawn on me until I went through the bio. I'm like, oh, Saint Motel. Like, there's a lot of. How did that happen? How did you? I mean, I looked into your. To your history and so on and so forth. You've done filmmaking, you're a creative. How in the world did it go from, hey, I'm doing this to, I'm going to make some glasses based on color. Like I'm exploring color theory. Let me make some glasses that are going to help with this.
Yeah. I mean, it just was something that needed to exist that kind of blew my mind that it didn't exist. Because I've been wearing glasses for most of my adult life, and I'm sure you kind of have a similar thing where you probably have prescription sunglasses and prescription glasses.
They're all they're progressives too. Like, I mean, I take my, so my vision has been fragmented for years.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing. Your vision changes. And I mean, for me, it was a combination of carrying around two pieces of eyewear that led me to clip-on sunglasses. And I was wearing, clip-ons for a long time, but it was hard for me to, I would lose them or break them all the time. Where do you put them when you're not wearing them? But then I was trying to find more colors, and that's kind of where it started. I was trying to find, I lost my sepia ones, so I was trying to find more like, kind of brownish ones. And I couldn't really find ones that were working. And then, the idea of, if you have clip-ons, you could slip in lenses instead, and then you could kind of stack them because the lenses are so thin. There's no reason you can't travel around like with 10 colors in your pocket. So that was kind of like what really got it going. And then started talking with some friends of mine back in Minneapolis who work at 3M, and we kind of started just having fun conversations like, how would this work? And I was doing ridiculous drawings and sending over Photoshop stuff, and it eventually led to 3D printing models. My local library has a 3D printer, and so I would be the guy that they knew me down at the library as the crazy glasses guy. They were like, what is he doing? Like, he keeps coming and making these like strange glasses and sliding things in there, and we kind of just fine-tuned it as much as we could. And then when the pandemic hit and touring shut down, it was kind of a nice place for my mind to go. We've just been playing music for a long time, and the tour was kind of brutal, and it was kind of fun to explore a new kind of creative challenge and see how these would work.
It's funny as you mentioned the whole creative stuff that you normally are working on, and then you're doing something that is seemingly completely different. But I think it's important to say, okay, like I mean, gardening. Like I know a lot of, I'm a writer, but I like to get my hands dirty in the garden or do woodworking. Like you see that mix happening all the time, right? And how do you I mean, I guess it was a beneficial for you at this point because you had these, I had this idea, you were already prototyping it and all that stuff. And then, the pandemic hit and you're like, well, at least I've got this thing, right? So let me move forward with this. How quickly did it move forward during the course of, the 18 months or so that we were really kind of stuck in limbo, so to speak?
I mean, it was pretty slow going. Kind of just fine tuning the design and trying to get the right colors, sending stuff back and forth. It was pretty slow. It was kind of thing that was, kind of in the back of my mind as always. There's something to do and finish designs and get the website going. But I was trying to do as much of it as I could myself and have a finger on everything to really learn as much as I could from the process. Just kind of see what it was like taking something from an idea to something you could hold in your hands. But it took we started kind of this whole thing before the pandemic, but the entire pandemic was the time it took for us to actually have something that wasn't 3D printed in our hands.
Setting aside time for that sort of thing, like making sure that you put yourself in a position to be able to go, okay, this thing is now moving. I can't and I mean, again, we didn't know when things were going to open up. You obviously have other creative pursuits you're working on. How did you balance the time between, okay, I'm building this thing and I definitely want to bring this to life? Because you're right, it's bringing something different to life than what you normally would be, but obviously there's probably some similarities along the way. How did you structure your time in a way to say, okay, I don't want to forsake this for this, or vice versa?
That's a great question. That's the big challenge. I mean, I there's a lot of underestimation of what it took. I think that I wasn't so aware of. But it's trying to find that balance and then finding talented people to kind of help, you know, make it all work. Especially since touring is starting up again, and writing the next album, and just trying to find that great team, because this is no longer something that I'm kind of doing in my bedroom. So yeah, I guess it's not that dissimilar to writing a song in a way, where it starts out in the bedroom and then you find kind of a team to kind of help flush it out and bring it to the world, and then play it live with you. And but yeah, it's so new. It's so new. The company and the eyewear, it's only been out for 2 months. I think as tour starts in October or September, that's when it's really going to be something I have to keep an eye on to stay productive on both without sacrificing either. But yeah, it's a challenge. It's a dance.
And you get
dance.
to be your brand ambassador along the way too.
That's
I
true.
guarantee you.
That's true.
You will be rocking those the AVIEWs on the stage, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, I just needed these glasses. I wasn't like, man, I need to run an eyewear business, or something like that. So
That's normally how it goes, though, right? It's
yeah,
you make something because you're like, it's something that you need, so you're going to solve that problem, and then it turns out, oh, other people probably have this problem too.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. I wasn't like, wasn't looking forward to necessarily learning all about SEO and all these other aspects of it. I mean, I'm just excited when someone else who wears glasses is like, yes, finally, I don't have to take two things around with me. Or when people are, trying out different colors and getting the benefits of those colors. And, it's weird when you think about you're spending like $300 for a pair of Ray-Bans that are green, and they're always going to be green for the rest of your life. And then, once you can kind of change out colors, you realize green's a great tint, but not always. Like if you're
Right.
if you're on a road trip, it's the perfect example. Like the sun starts out in the morning, you want something kind of refreshing, getting you going. Midday gets really bright, you need to kind of darken it up. Let's say like, it starts raining, you need better vision, focus. You switch out to like something like yellow And then, the sun goes down, you want the vibe, but you want some sun protection. You switch into like some brown lenses and finish the day with rose. I mean, like, there's no reason you need to stay with that one pair of sunglasses. It's just, hopefully, if we do our job right, people are going to be like, why would I want to buy one color sunglasses ever again?
Right. Or why would I want to have my glasses just have transition and then that's all they transition into? Because I mean,
Yeah.
that's what mine are.
Yeah. I mean, they're just transitioning to one color. And then
Yeah, that's my or two different pairs of glasses, right?
yeah.
And what's interesting is like these glasses have, I mean, and I've tried contacts for years, but my eyes are too dry. Like they just don't do it. Plus, I have an astigmatism in both eyes, so I'm not a candidate for laser surgery. Like these are definitive. They're happening, right? So my choices have been buy more than one pair, right? Like buy a pair of prescription. I mean, even when it comes to swimming goggles, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
prescription swimming goggles, right? Like I have to have all that stuff. So when I saw, when I saw what you're putting together, I'm like, this is cool. Not only because it creates a new choice, right? Like now I'm no longer, but also what I found, the choices of colors. Like, and I want to get into that a little bit. Like you mentioned, like the idea of as the days phases make their way through, but there's other color theory aspects that you were looking at, right? As you went through this, like these colors, and here's why. Can you talk a little bit about that and why
Absolutely.
some of the colors you chose?
Yeah. Funny enough, the original name of the company was Color Theory. And, we actually had the trademark approved. And then the clothing brand Theory was like, we are going to make your life a living hell.
Right, because it's apparel, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So, we
Yeah.
got out of it. But color theory is just fascinating, starting with Isaac Newton, but like the people, I mean, it's the studies now, even with like how it affects your mood and productivity are pretty incredible. Like, there's a couple ways you can look at it. One is mood and one is productivity. And I kind of feel like if you think about it in terms of like blue blocking glasses when you're at your computer,
Right.
that's a gateway drug to color theory. Because really, blue blocking glasses, these are blue blocking glasses. These are 90% better than those clear blue blocking glasses. It's just blocking more blue light. And the reason you want to do that, to protect your eyes also, as you wind down through the day, you switch to like a different hue. But blue is great in the morning. Because blue is like, that's what's going to get you going and feeling refreshing and moving your biological rhythms and all these kind of things. So blue is a great thing in the morning. Yellow has a hyper focusing effect. I always say it's like coffee for your eyeballs. Like you put on the yellow,
Right.
you slip those in, and it's like if you were feeling kind of low energy, it boosts you up without having to take any caffeine. It's like instantly intense. Or if you're driving in the rain, you really need to focus. Yellow is perfect for that. And green and black are very similar. Green is good for contrast, and I mean green is something I guess pilots choose for that reason. Most green lenses, they're not like a hyper green, but they're a slightly better color contrast than black, and then black is your taking everything down. Brown to me is kind of like nostalgic. It almost feels like a dream state in a way. Like I love
Yeah.
brown tints. It feels like you're kind of walking in a memory.
To me, when I have another pair, just sidebar real quick, that does transition into brown, and it's like my chill lenses. Like it's the one,
Exactly.
like brown is like the all right. I don't need to do anything if I don't want to now.
Exactly. Brown feels like you're kind of in a timeless place. It feels great.
Mm.
And then if you have that feeling with brown, then my favorite is rose, because rose is, indoor, outdoor, whenever. It's that kind of, it makes everything feel, well, an interesting side note, the phrase "see the world through rose-colored
I was gonna
glasses"
I
is
was gonna
actually,
bring that up.
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's actually an interesting story behind that. That phrase they think was originated with Civil War veterans, and doctors would actually prescribe them to look through rose crystals to deal with PTSD, because it
Mhm.
actually has an effect. It actually makes you feel. I mean, maybe happy is too general, but it feels uplifting.
Right.
Especially if it's if it's a sunny day, it just enhances it. But if it's like a cloudy day, it brings that little bit of feeling you get when you have that sunshine. Rose has a really nice effect. But also the benefit between yellow and rose is they're both going to block, all the blue light that you have with a little bit less of the clear lenses. So, there's tremendous benefits with the colors, but if for me, I just like the customization of it. I like being able to kind of change, like if I start feeling sluggish, or if I'm like, getting in a weird mood, or if I want to really focus on something, I just kind of always like being able to customize what's around me, but just throwing in different lenses is a nice kind of enhancement.
Well, like you just brought it up. I was going to say, it's like changing your environment, right? It's like the difference between, like, I'm in my study right now, and then it was funny earlier today, before we recorded, we have new neighbors. They're great because they live there now, because the old neighbors were tenants, but they've just moved in. And you know what happens when you move into a new house. You want to start getting it in shape. Well, yesterday the arborists were here and my study is right across. So that was, I left the study for a while because there was no way there was no noise canceling headphones that would stop that. And then earlier today, they were upgrading their electrical, and they were doing it. They started, and I'm like, is this going to get on my nerves? And sometimes it's not even the noise. Sometimes it's the awareness that the noise could be present, or that because sometimes it's just that. And I think that when it comes to environment, like, again, if I didn't have the choice, and we ran into this problem, still in some cases, people can't go places. The simple ability to be able to change the way you look at things, not just perspective wise, but like by literally changing the view, the way you look through your glasses, is something that people haven't really considered, but yet you've given people the capability to do so.
Absolutely. I totally hear what you mean with changing your environment. I don't know about you, but I have wheels on my desks, so I can move around the room as necessary, depending on the vibe and what I'm feeling at that moment.
We're on my computer desk right now. This right here is my writing desk, and actually where my audio, I actually have a Rodecaster Pro with a lighting kit and a microphone on wheels, which I literally bought from Bed Bath & Beyond, just so I could have it move around. I need to be able to have different views. Like, I've got a camera here, and you need to do that because it keeps you fresh.
It does, and it affects your productivity. Don't you feel like if there's something out of place or something, it just keeps that's not even necessarily OCD. It's something like once you get spatially situated, you can, I don't know why, but your focus can just go way up.
As soon as this desk comes down, I know what I'm supposed to do. And that's there's power there, right? And to your point about AVIEW, is that you put in the right lens, like you put in these lenses, you know what they're meant to help you with. Not only is it going to help you with that in terms of, the color theory we're talking about, but there is this wouldn't say placebo, but this idea that your brain goes, okay, like you've created a new neural pathway. It's like a habit, right? Like, this is the time of day I'm supposed to do this thing. And the friction to do it is just that much more lessened because of the fact that you've kind of put these parameters in place. Let's shift gears for a second. So now because this is very much a business pursuit to a degree, right? Like, and then you've got your creative pursuits, although we all know that, the creative industry is just as much business as it is creative in a lot of ways. Do you find that you have to have a certain time of day where you focus on the creative part and then other times of day where you focus on the business part? Or is there more of is it kind of a go with the flow kind of thing? Or are you really trying to be structured about it?
I mean, now that I'm kind of getting back into writing mode, I'm really trying to be structured about it, because I would not really want to be in the middle of kind of writing a song and then all of a sudden, go to my part of my brain that has to answer an email or something like that real quick. But it's right now I'm kind of figuring out what that is. With the last album, I kind of experimented with hyper scheduling, because we were just on tour for like 2 years and we got off and there was no structure, and I was writing a lot of the album before that on the road. And I actually was like into the idea of, going someplace, leaving it behind at night, structuring out through the day with this period, you be creative, this period, you go for a hike, this period, you eat lunch, this period, you meditate for a little bit, this period, like do something you didn't do any other day, like, that kind of thing. And I really enjoyed it. That being said, I'm trying to experiment with this album where I've got a mobile studio set up, and I'm kind of looking for some amount of, I wouldn't say chaos, but being in locations I've never been, at least never written music, and kind of tapping into that energy as well. So I'm kind of going on the other end a little bit, but I think I'll take the lessons of the hyper scheduling with me wherever I wind up.
So that's interesting, because I think that as you make your way through anything in life and you're trying different ways to do things, knowing that you had something that worked is super powerful in the background. Like, so hyper scheduling, and the way I define hyper scheduling, because I've actually talked about, like, there's dangers to it on a sustainable level. Like, you can't do it sustainably because you'll burn out, right?
Oh yeah.
But in the instance of, what I do with especially with the clients I work with, because this is my wheelhouse, is I say, giving yourself blocks of time that are themed. So whether it's a daily theme or a horizontal theme, like from 1 to 3, like right now I'm working on my next book, and from 8 until 12:30, that's what I'm in writing mode. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm just writing the book, right? So I need to give myself a bit of a spectrum. We'll throw some more visual stuff in there, a bit of a spectrum to work with. But when I talk about hyperscheduling, and I don't think it's what you're mentioning, is hyperscheduling can get to the point where you're like, I must do this at this time. And the problem is your brain goes, I don't want to do that. Or, we ran long with this thing. You didn't get to do that. You're a failure, right? You know what I mean? So there's like,
right.
There's that.
Oh, there's definitely that danger.
There's that danger there. But that's not what you were saying. You're more focused on, like, dive into that a little bit more, what you were talking about.
Yeah, there's times where, writing when you have a studio in your house or something like that, there's a tendency to not be able to leave it alone, or, having a little bit of space between it, I think was kind of interesting and helpful, rather than, you tinker as much as you can, then you go to sleep and it just stays with you. Something kind of cool about leaving it, starting fresh the next day. And then it might be different too with the songwriting process, because then it's like, okay, now you have to go, take a hike or something. But during that process, you're thinking about maybe lyrical ideas, or maybe that melody sticking with you, or maybe it's not, or maybe something else comes into your head. You're like, yo, you know what? The first idea was actually kind of more interesting. You find yourself whistling that in the woods, kind of thing. So your brain's kind of staying in creative mode, but if it's like,
that off.
Like if they're,
You can't turn. That's why you got to have capture everything, regret nothing, because you never know, right? I was watching John Tesh, a video about, because the NBA basketball playoffs are on right now as we're recording this, and I harken back. Do you remember the old 1990s version that was the round ball rock? Like, it's from way back. And John Tesh wrote that song. And so he tells a story where I think he's in Monaco or something like that. And he comes up with the idea for the song. And he calls himself at home and leaves a message on his answering machine with the action. And he played it. So if there's a YouTube video of it where he goes, and here's that message. And he played and he goes, here's that thing I'm working on for NBC. And he goes, da, 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 da. Like, he just sings it and then it beep. And I'm like, you just can't turn that off. But I guess to your point, and I mean, I've been reading I watched that Hemingway documentary not too long ago, and Hemingway would just quit mid-sentence. If I'm like, I kind of like that idea sometimes. It's like, okay, it's 11:30, my writing time's done. If the last word is because then at least he knows where he's picking up the next day. Because I think sometimes we go, let's finish this paragraph or this chapter or this verse, right? So then you have to try to get that momentum going again. But we have to try different things too.
I think that's interesting, and it's different. It's different with certain aspects. If you leave something hanging that's like a task you need to get done, it's like a different feeling of if you're trying to create something, leaving it mid task.
Right.
Like one can nag you forever, but uh, if you're leaving like you're painting or writing a book or a song or anything, since a lot of that creative force, you don't know where it comes from,
Right.
and like it's a muscle from inside of us kind of thing. You can't force it, and you can fatigue it. You need to kind of rest it, and sometimes leaving when it's unfinished is for the best.
Um,
You know.
I'm a big fan of Stephen Pressfield. I had the ability. I interviewed him a few years ago for when his book, The Authentic Swing, came out, which was based on the book The Legend of Bagger Vance. I don't know if you've read The War of Art. It's a fantastic book for creatives. And he talks about the muse, and it's an interesting dynamic because he also talks about the resistance, and he says that the muse won't wait for you. Have to go and sit with the muse. You can't just expect the muse to show up. But by the same token, like you're saying, things strike you, and the disciplined artist or the disciplined creator has to know, okay, this is when I'm supposed to sit down and do it versus let me make note of that, let it percolate, and then do something with it, right?
Absolutely. Like that's a great point. Like imagine the terror of knowing you have 8 hours straight and sitting down and being like, create it. There's some sort of uh, relief by breaking it up into chunks. Like, okay, my first hour, nothing too crazy. Now I'm gonna go whatever. Oh, my next hour, you're starting fresh in these chunks every time. It'd be like terrifying. Like, imagine like, especially before you're producing music in your bedroom or whatever, a small studio, you have like 40 musicians ready to go and the engineer, and they've got the two mics warmed up, and they're like, okay, let's do it. Yeah, I mean, you have to be absolutely ready for when the muse strikes, and then you kind of have to also, when it's not there, prepare yourself for when it is the next time.
Um, I used to do comedy years ago, which I love doing sketch. I know you've done some sketch too, right? You've done some sketch comedy. My comedy troupe performed at San Francisco Sketch Fest well over a decade ago now, easily, probably closer to 15 years. And one thing that I've noticed, and I'm asking you this because this relates directly to the business, directly to AVIEW, is the lessons I learned from comedy, which were, and I mean, this movie Comedian by Jerry Seinfeld is a fantastic movie about comedy because, I mean, he says, and I mean, I'm not a massive fan of Seinfeld, but his description is apt. He said, the average person goes into an airplane bathroom stall, sees the razor disposal unit, and goes, "Oh, that's just for if someone forgot to change their razor blade, and then they have that there just in case." But the comedian's going, "Who's shaving so much that they're going through razor blades on the plane?" And then the bit evolves from that. And you can't turn that off. Like that's not something if that's in it. And so what I've noticed is since I've departed the comedy career, which again, comedy in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada wasn't going to be a really mega career anyway. But nonetheless, I have found that kind of ability has translated to my time management and productivity space where I can talk about like superheroes or pro wrestling or whatever, and I can directly relate that to time management and productivity, which I think is a skill. And so when I look at something, I see how does that relate to time or productivity? Like my brain just goes there like it would with comedy. Do you find that with your work as an artist, now that you've built this business that's, you're getting off the ground, that same kind of thing applies where you're looking at things, no pun intended, through different lenses when it comes to this?
Absolutely. I wish I could control it more, I guess, where more my brain goes. But once it's in the field of like, okay, this is it, I'm wearing the hat of this is AVIEW now, or okay, now I'm creating a song, then I'll try to be as much in that moment as possible. But yeah, no, I am easily distractible, and it definitely wanders.
It's about leveraging it though, right? It's about going, okay, like you may not be able to
Yeah,
control it, but you might be able to steer it a bit, right? Or
yeah.
leverage it.
And I wonder if the comedian background in you, it's a timing thing, because that's such an important part of it. And you have such a, you probably fine tune that skill.
It's interesting because I think that the other thing that happened, and again, having done improv and doing public speaking, is sometimes you get cocky too. Like I've done lots of improv. Well, again, sometimes that has put me in a position where I get a speaking gig and you're like, oh, you don't have to work that hard. You're an improviser. You can wing this thing. But you soon realize when you're public speaking the difference between the professional and the person that's not. And that's exactly what it is. It's the same thing, with anything. So instead of initially early on when I was speaking in my career, it was, oh, the improv will help me. Then I was like, oh no, wait, the improv is hurting me a bit because now I'm letting it be a crutch. And now I finally gotten to that balance point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So what's next for AVIEW? Like, what is the plan? Where can people get it? Are they available in Canada? Can people with progressive lenses get them?
Yes to all of this.
Okay.
And I mean, right now we have 6 colors. We have rose, green, yellow, blue, black, and brown. And then we're kind of looking at introducing new colors like violet and amber, orange. And, we've got some ideas to add some patterns in there too. So you can slip in like eyeballs to make it look like you're awake, or a peace sign, or cat eyes, whatever it is. Maybe you can slide in kind of more of those spectrum lights that make the lights look crazy, or pretty much once you have the frame, being able to slide in a whole world of possibilities.
To do some hexagons and make people look like they see like dragonflies or something like that, where they see multiple.
Yeah, exactly, like fly vision kind of thing. But next, we're looking at doing square frame designs, and then cat eye, and kind of keep expanding it. Ideally, like someday you'll just be able to choose your color uniquely out of the million plus available. You'll be like, choose exactly that color. It'll be made for you on the spot, and you'll rock your custom color that is just for you to, help you do what you need to do. But yeah, we're baby steps, man. We're definitely shipping to Canada. We're getting out there one face at a time.
That's fantastic. So where can people go to learn more about AVIEW? And then also, where can people keep up with what you're doing, AJ? Because, I mean, you've got a lot going on.
AVIEW.com is the spot to go for all things eyewear. Send us a message, hello@avieview.com. And for me, Saint Motel, my Instagram is kind of a compilation of silly drawings of my life's events. And yeah, I mean, hopefully pretty soon you'll be able to follow me in my mobile studio locations, if it's Macedonia or Brazil, wherever I am. But yeah, I'm around. I'm on the interwebs.
Yeah. So check, and you'll be posting some of that stuff to Instagram, I would imagine, too, like where you're going to be and stuff like that. Awesome. AJ, thanks so much for taking the time to have a productive conversation with me today.
Hey, my pleasure.
Thanks to AJ for taking the time out of his schedule to join me. Again, you can learn about all the things we discussed in the show notes. Just go to productivityist.com/podcast 389 and you'll get everything there, including how you can pick up some of these glasses, which I have. And I'm waiting for my contacts to arrive so I can actually put these to more use, because they are really cool. I actually have the clear frames, which might be interesting for me to play with, and you'll probably see me wearing them occasionally on social in the not too distant future. If you're following me on social, if you're not following me on social, well, you can find me at Productivityist on all the social platforms. I'm at Mike Vardy on Twitter as well, so you can check me out there. But speaking of following, you should be following the podcast. You should subscribe to the podcast. That way, you don't miss a single episode of everything that's coming, as well as it's easier for you to find all of the episodes that we have in our back catalog. And there's over 388 of them now, including this one. So subscribe to the podcast in whichever app you're using, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you're listening to this podcast. Hit that subscribe button, and that way you don't miss a single episode. of A Productive Conversation. And next week, I'm going to have another productive conversation, this time with Perry Marshall. I'm looking forward to bringing it to you. Until then, I'm Mike Vardy, the host of A Productive Conversation with Mike Vardy, reminding you to stop doing productive and start being productive. I'll see you later.